What's happening, y'all? Welcome to my weekly portfolio update. So, I know I told y'all last week I was gonna go international with it and show y'all how to look for stocks out of the country. I'm gonna have to save that for next week because there's been a trend in the market, and I feel like I'm a week to 2 weeks, maybe even 3 weeks, a little late on this trend, right? But I'm going to talk about the trend. I'm going to talk about my next move. But first, let me get into the update like I normally do. Let's compare my portfolio to the overall stock market portfolio. So let's put up. Okay, so we had about 2,600. I think I was around 2,700 until Friday. As you can see, it's red across the board on Friday. Bitcoin is going up today. The crypto market doesn't close. Um, but we're gonna look at weekly. Um, so for the past week, I want to say this might be since the first time since I did this portfolio update, or the second time, but for the past week, I'm down 0.98%, right? Less than 1% down for the week. Long term, we're investing for the long term, so not too worried about that. But the S&P 500. Um, all right, the S&P 500 in the past week was down 2.81%. So even though we down last week, the S&P 500 was down more. So we both were down, but we still beat the S&P 500 last week over a month's period. Over a month's period, the S&P 500 is only up 0.39%, not even 1% in a month. Okay, we gonna see how we did though. In a month's time, we up 4.2%. So the S&P 500, less than a 1% in a month, we up 4.2. So we doing good for the month. We got enough stats for 3 months though. Let's see what 3 months talk about. The past 3 months, we up 17.3%. Okay. What about the S&P in the past 3 months? Whoo-hoo. We smacking the market across the head, y'all. S&P 500 in the past 3 months is only up 9.9%. So in a week's period, months period, and 3 months period, we are beating the S&P 500 by a significant amount. Let's go into some of the individual moves in the portfolio. If I didn't mention to y'all already, I did start a Roth IRA. Robinhood now has a Roth IRA, so I contribute a little bit to it just for some tax-free type stuff. But we got the S&P 500. I'm dollar cost averaging into that, you know, just $20 every 2 weeks in the S&P 500. And we got about zero point 0.4 shares, and we're up about $15 with a total of 235 invested, plus the return. So it's 235 minus 15 is what I added to it, and the rest is and the $15, the 1483 is profit. All right. So we got the S&P 500. As y'all know, most of the money I've been making is in my powerhouse, my front runner, NVIDIA. I got 10 shares. We finally at 10 shares for NVIDIA. As soon as that pull up, we gonna look at it. So with NVIDIA, we scroll down. Okay, NVIDIA, we're up almost $400 in NVIDIA. I got a total of 10 shares and about $400 almost in profit with my money just sitting there. I do have 74% of my portfolio in NVIDIA. I am going to dilute that. I only really want it down to like 60%, really, but I'm going to dilute that And now I'm going to talk about my next move. But before we even do that, let me go to SoundHound and see how my penny stock is doing. I still only have two shares. I still only have two shares of SoundHound AI. Um, and the penny stock is big risk type stuff. But you buy a couple of shares, you see what happens. So I got two shares, and we're up 1.4%, up 28 cents total. We're gonna ride that out. We're gonna see what that do. SoundHound is not a guaranteed bet. It got a lot of competition. It's one of those things where, you know what I'm saying, you'll see what happened. But the reason why I made a pivot from talking about international stocks is because I wasn't even paying attention to the mid cap stocks. So mid cap stocks are stocks that aren't these massive companies like Apple, Amazon, Google, Tesla. They're more smaller companies, like recently profitable, but they don't have trillions of dollars. They may be they may be worth, 20 billion or 40 billion, something like that, but nowhere near these multiple trillion-dollar companies. These companies usually just turn profitable, soon to be profitable. And I have a company that I do like. We're a little late on the run up, but we're also expecting, if not this next time when the Fed talks about interest rates, I think the Fed is finally going to make an interest rate cut. And when the Fed makes interest rate cuts, that means companies have more borrowing. They're willing to borrow more because interest rates are lower, so they could borrow more to invest in their company. And mid-cap stocks benefit the most from that because they're just now getting profitable. They already got something working in their favor, and now having more borrowing power is going to get them to the point where they start scaling a lot faster. So my most favorite one, we're gonna go over a couple of them. We got so a Palantir was recently a mid-cap stock, but now Palantir is more like it's now became a larger cap stock, right? Palantir has significantly grown over a 3-month period, year period. Like Palantir has just been skyrocketing, right? And that's because they recently became profitable. And they're up 103%. Nvidia, Apple, Amazon are not even up 103%. So when you catch these companies, these mid-cap companies, and they're on the wave, that's when you know, okay, you gotta catch them at some point during the wave. The wave already started about a month ago, but I'm gonna go over some mid-cap stocks that I like. And then we're gonna go with the one that I'm buying this week. And I already mentioned this company before, but we're gonna go with SoFi, right? And what I like about SoFi is not one of these old time, traditional banks like Bank of America, Wells Fargo, anything like that. But SoFi they have like so many different financial products. I've been watching them for a minute. They have debt consolidation. They have credit cards. They have so many different financial products. Let's look at SoFi year to date. SoFi year to date is only up 41%. I feel like it's been on the run lately. This last month, it's been up 20%. SoFi, if they're not profitable yet, I believe they will soon to be profitable. They just released their quarterly um, they just released their quarterly earnings, and they beat earnings, and they've been beating earnings like you can see ever since 2023. They beat earnings, beat earnings, beat earnings. So they're a company that continuously beats earnings, and that's what you want to see. On top of that, when you see financial products, banks, and stuff like that, SoFi, people that lend money and deal with money, see that personal finance and rising loan organization drives strong growth. Well, you see the money people, the banks, the places that give you loans and all of that. When you see them doing good, that means the rest of the economy should be doing well. So since the economy is doing well, we're expecting rate cuts. The mid cap is where it's at. So SoFi, I really like for the mid cap, but now I'm gonna show y'all the one that I'm buying and why I like this company, right? And I already mentioned this company before, but I like them, and they're soon to be profitable. Now I missed a big chunk of the run up, to be honest. To be honest, I missed a big chunk of the run up, and that's why I really didn't want to buy them at first, to be honest. But look at Hims. Hims is up year to date 153%. That's all. It was about $30 at the beginning of the year, but the past 3 months, it was up 70%. So just like what I talked about, penny stocks, they have the biggest growth potential, but most of the penny stocks don't go anywhere. With the mid cap, you have penny stock like potential, not as massive as penny stocks, but the mid cap stocks are a little easier to gauge. Okay, they're soon to be profitable. I like their products, this and that. And if you don't know Hims, they have hair loss products, they have erectile dysfunction products, they have Ozempic. All of their products, I mean, they're like flying off the shelves. They have a big stockpile of cash and a very small amount of debt, and they're soon to be profitable. They're in the healthcare field a little bit. Healthcare is good for defense. I want to see how they actually turn out in regards to like the defense aspect of it. But I really like Hims for my mid cap stock. I'm going for heavy growth, probably going to get about 2 shares. And let me pull up my account because I got money to buy Hims, to be real. But for some reason, as you can see in my buy power, I only got, let me make sure y'all see this because I be having problem with the screen going out and I'm trying to do better with that. You know what I'm saying? But if you go down to my buy power, you see I got $8. But if you click on it, I really have 250. It's just unsettled. So by Monday, when that 250 drop, I might put all of it into Hims, or I might just buy 2 shares and see how it go. Right. So that is my next purchase is Hims. Um, this week I was supposed to go international with y'all and talk about international companies, but y'all do have my plays. When you see me next week, you will see that I purchased some shares of Hims. I'm gonna do it tomorrow morning when the money settles in my account. So, in regards to, I don't want to sound clickbaity, so I'm gonna talk about what happened in the market this week. I already finished the portfolio update. If you want to go ahead and get out of here and wait till next week for that, but I'm gonna pull up some chart work, and I'm gonna have a whole video explaining all of this thoroughly in case you just don't get it. But when you look at Hims, right? And I'm just going to give y'all basic chart stuff. It's not about trading stocks or anything like that, but price can always show you what to expect, what you could expect next, but also can show you, what happened this past week or whatever the case is. So if you're looking at the chart, the thicker part of the candle is the body and the smaller lines are the wick, right? So this is how you can see what price did during last week for Hims. So Hims started the week here. Let me put a line so you know what I'm saying, so y'all can see. So Hims, we started the week right here, right? You read the candlestick right to left, so everything all the way over to the right is the most recent, right? Hims, we started the week right there because that's the bottom of a green candle. When you look at the bottom of a red candle, that's where the week ended at. But on a green candle, that's where the week started at. So we started right there at $58.79 is where we started the week on Hims. Hims made it all the way up to $70 last week and finished the week right here down at $62. So it was something about last week that kind of pushed that kind of pushed the stock market down a little bit. But I'm cool with that because I would rather buy the stock. Of course, I would rather buy the stock down here at the current price is 62.44 versus when it hit up here at $70. So it was something that pushed it down. I wasn't really paying too much attention to like all what happened in the, any reports or anything like that last week. It could have been a tweet from Trump. It could have been an economical report or something like that. But something caused the market to push down last week, which, okay, if I like the company, that's better opportunity for me. But also, if you know my previous video, and later on, I'll probably go over other indicators, but this ain't about trading. It's about buying stocks for long term. I just like to throw a little bit of candle stuff in there so y'all could understand how this works. So this, what I'm making larger and smaller down here, is the MACD indicator, where you got the blue and orange lines crossing each other. And every time they cross, you see either red bars down at the bottom or green bars down at the top. The weekly time frame kind of gives you a longer vision. Of course, you have time frames down to 2 minutes, and it goes all the way up to a month. So each candle will either be from on the time frame. So each candle is whatever time frame you're looking at. So each candle on this time frame is a week, and a week is a longer time frame, which gives you a better idea of what direction you think the stock market will go. Right. So if we look at the MACD indicator, you know what I'm saying, which is this line in these bars down here that I'm making larger or smaller, it is now crossing upwards going green. So the indicator is not a guarantee, it's not anything like that. But if you look, the trend is your friend. So we're trending in the upward direction. We got the MACD crossing up. On Friday, somehow the reason the stock got pushed down, so it's less than it would have been if it was up here. We're about to break all-time highs. We're about to be profitable, and we're about to do earnings. I think, let me see when HIMS does earnings. HIMS will be reporting earnings. I got a strong feeling they're going to beat earnings. The last time I bought off of earnings, remember, was Nvidia. So HIMS is reporting earnings tomorrow afternoon. I expect HIMS to beat earnings, so I will be buying HIMS before they report earnings tomorrow afternoon. I might do a little record of like what the price does, when earnings, just so y'all could get a little bit of, the live action of how earnings actually looks when you in a stock or anything like that. But I will buy, and I always tell y'all buying before earnings is a little risky. They could beat estimates, but the stock still goes down. It's a very sensitive thing when earnings are reported. Stock could shoot up or it could shoot down. Whether they beat earnings or miss earnings, it doesn't matter really. But I'm gonna buy HIMS tomorrow before earnings. This is the second stock that I'm buying before earnings because I don't want to miss the run up. I'm Mike, the Money Motivator, man. Y'all make sure y'all like and subscribe. Stay profitable. And next week, we will go international. So get your passport. You should already be packed because you was expecting it to be this week. But get your passport. We're going to go overseas. I'm going to show you which countries and to invest in or look into invest in and what stocks are the best for each of these countries. I'm Mike, the Money Motivator, man. Y'all make sure y'all like and subscribe.